The New York Rangers have another terrible performance in Game 5. They lose 4-0 to the New Jersey Devils, now trail 3-2 in the series. And on today's show, going to be calling out some of the star players that once again pulled a complete no-show for the New York Rangers. All that and much more on today's episode of Locked On New York Rangers. Welcome back, Blue Shirts fans, to episode number 816 of the Locked On New York Rangers podcast. I'm your host, John Chick. Just want to thank you guys, as always, for making Locked On New York Rangers your first listen every day. We are free and available on all platforms. And just a completely miserable game for the New York Rangers. Once again, you can copy and paste a lot of things that I said after Game 4 right here to Game 5, although, these games did unfold a little bit differently, and we're going to break down everything that happened here. But, I'm usually very much glass half full on this show. When it comes to the New York Rangers, it's very difficult to be that way after a loss like this, a demoralizing loss like this, a loss in which the Devils pretty much skated circles around you for the better part of the entire evening. Rangers had a decent first period. They were at least in the game, and they got worse and worse as this game continued. And to get this out of the way, yes, the Devils have played much better as this series has progressed, but the lack of, I stopped myself for a second there, but I think it's true. The lack of effort, the lack of heart that the Rangers are showing right now is pretty dumbfounding. They come out in the first two games, skate circles around the Devils, and they've just pulled a complete no-show in each of these last two games. And if you're a Ranger fan right now and you're mad, upset, frustrated, angry, disappointed, depressed, basically anything that's the opposite of happy, then you have every right to feel that way. The Rangers star players are simply not getting the job done right now, and by the end of this game, they look completely disengaged. We talk about the whole no-quit in New York thing. The Rangers, there wasn't a lot of fight there in the third period. They put a grand total of 2 shots on goal in the third period, a situation in which they were trailing 3-0, and pretty much just kind of packed it in for the night, and they just weren't going to come back. There was no rally to even be had. Think about it. They were down 3-0 going into the third period, so obviously it's not looking good. Never say never in the Stanley Cup playoffs. We've seen teams come back from 3-0 and even greater deficits than that. But the Rangers did not even put enough shots on goal in the third period to potentially tie or even win the game. They were down by 3 goals. They only put 2 shots on goal. Even if they both go in and the Devils score no goal in the third period, it's still literally impossible for the Rangers to win that game. They would have lost 3-2. But yeah, they weren't even going to get that close. It was just a miserable performance in the third period. And, Gerard Gallant after this game, he said that he thought the Rangers played better in this one than they did the game before. And anybody that listens to this podcast on the regular, the everydayers, you guys know that I've mostly been a Gerard Gallant supporter, and I get what he's trying to do here. But believe me, Gallant has a lot of responsibility in what's happened here, because for one reason or another, the Rangers have just not been at the same compete level as the Devils in these last 2 games. They've fallen apart. They cannot produce any offense whatsoever. And again, it's on Gallant to push the right buttons and come up with the right strategies and get these guys ready to roll. And this has not been a team that's been ready to go in these last handful of games here. We're going to talk a little bit more about Gallant a little bit later in today's episode. But, something that, as far as his comments after the game, because I saw him coming under fire, for saying that he thought they played better in this game. I get why he said that. He can't be doom and gloom after every playoff loss. He can't throw his guys under the bus. They're now facing elimination. I think this probably is a good time for the coach, whether it's Gallant or any other coach that would be in this position. It's a good time to have his players' backs and try to pull some kind of positives out of this game. There weren't many to be found, but I get why he did it. I get why he said what he did. But regardless of, his motives for saying what he did after this game, his job is going to be in jeopardy for sure if the Rangers don't find a way to rally out of this deficit, and especially if they play in Game 6 the way that they have in each of these last 2 games here. I thought, as far as things that the Rangers did better, I thought they skated a little bit better in this game. I thought that there was at least some traffic in front of Akira Schmid, not really a whole lot, but at least some to the point where it's conceivable that you could score on a deflection or bury a rebound or something along those lines. Obviously, it never happened. But one area where the Rangers did not improve at all was just the fire. Where's the fire? Where's the energy? Where's the we have to make this happen kind of mentality from this team? These guys are sitting on the bench. They showed, one of those sweeping camera shots. I think it was in the second period of the Ranger bench where, it starts on one side, the camera starts on one side of the bench, and it goes this way, and you see the look on every player's face, and everybody's just kind of staring into space. Nobody's talking. Nobody seems to have any fire, any energy in their eyes. I've got more fire in my eyes right now than the Rangers did for most of this game last night, just talking about them not playing well. And look, it's easy for me to sit here. We've talked about this too. It's easy for me to sit here in the comfort of my living room, on my couch watching this game. I realize hockey is a very physically demanding sport, very mentally demanding sport, and it's not easy. And obviously, the Rangers are up against a very, very good team right now. But man, I mean, I just cannot believe that this is the way the Rangers might go out. And, everything is still in front of them. They still have a chance here. The series is not over. As long as you're still out there skating and playing hockey, I will never admit that a series is over. I will never believe that. That's just always kind of been my mentality with this kind of stuff. Whether you're down 2-0 or 3-1 or 3-0, if you're still skating and you're still playing hockey, you still have a chance. But it's not going to happen without the Rangers pretty much doing a 180, and it probably won't happen without Igor Shesterkin going into God mode, because what we've seen from this team in the last couple of games here, it's very difficult to envision this offense, what we've seen in games 3, 4, and 5, and what we're seeing from Akira Schmid now. It's very difficult to see this team coming out and putting up like 4 or 5 goals. They almost have to win game 6 by a final score of either 1-0 or 2-1 or maybe 2-0. I don't know that they're going to score any more goals than that. It just doesn't seem like they're capable of doing it right now, which leads me into 2 players that we have to single out here. I mean, I'm not the coach of the Rangers, and, as a coach, I don't think you should ever really single out players and throw guys under the bus. It's not the best thing to do. But hey, this is a podcast. We're all Ranger fans here, and I'm going to echo what a lot of people were saying about the Rangers on social media last night. Mika and Panarin. Through 5 games, these guys have combined for a total of 0 goals and 4 points. This might be the worst game that Mika Zibanejad has played all season for the Rangers. I thought the top line for the Rangers, Kreider, Mika, Kane, I thought they got off to a decent start in this game. There was a play where, Mika gained the zone with some burst, pass back to Lindgren. Lindgren had a good shot, just a nice glove save by Akira Schmid there. There were a couple other chances as well. And I thought the first shift that they had in the second period was very good as well. They were kind of buzzing in the offensive zone. You actually felt like they might score. You felt that the equalizer might be there. And then that was canceled out by Mika Zibanejad taking an offensive zone penalty for goalie interference. One of 2 penalties that Mika Zibanejad took in this game, and one of 2 penalties that were completely unnecessary to take. The other one was in the neutral zone, barely in the neutral zone too. It was almost another offensive zone penalty. Mika interfered with a player. He kind of threw a pick there, and maybe he thought he could get away with it, but he didn't. It was the right call, and Mika ends up with 2 penalties in this game. Just by the end of this game, this top line, and they switched the lineup a little bit. They dropped Kane down. We'll talk about that a little bit later as well. But Kakko was back to playing with Mika and Kreider. But by the end of this game, man, Mika and Kreider were just drifting. No sense of purpose. They never had the puck. No energy. No fire. It is just a complete 180 from what we saw earlier in this series, and that can happen in the playoffs. You never know when these series can turn on a dime, and that's one of the things that I suppose gives me at least a little bit of hope for Game 6. Things can change quickly, and I don't think too many people saw the Rangers coming back from 3-1 down against the Penguins last year. Probably the same can be said when they were down 2-0 against the Canes. I think the general belief was that the Rangers were cooked in both those series because of the series score, 3-1 or 2-0. Whichever series you want to pick from there. And also, with the Canes, there was just a belief that the Canes were just the better team. But the Rangers made it happen then. Can they make it happen now? Only time's going to tell there. But it is going to take a hell of a lot more than what we've seen from this Ranger team in these last couple of games here. And, I mentioned Mika. We talked about him and the bad penalties. Panarin, another poor performance from him. 1 shot on goal from Artemi Panarin in this game. Felt like he never had the puck. Just a complete ghost out there. Had the terrible turnover that led to a Devils goal. On that one, I know the puck was kind of bouncing on him, but man, you're Artemi Panarin. You're one of the best players in the world. Puck handling is one of your strong suits. You cannot fumble that puck and let it result in a 2-on-1 break for the Devils. But I'm kind of getting ahead of myself. Panarin, -3 in this game, just the 1 shot on goal. And the 1 shot that he had, ironically, was probably one of the few situations where he should have passed and not shot. And I know we've been saying that Panarin has to be more decisive, shoot the puck a little bit more often, but this is one of the Rangers' best chances of the game. They were down 1-0. It was about, a couple of minutes into the first period. I want to say maybe like 6, 7, 8 minutes into the first period, somewhere in that area. But a great play by Vincent Trocheck along the Devils bench. He comes up, steals the puck, gains the blue line all in one motion, passes to his left to Artemi Panarin, and Panarin's moving toward the net. It's a 3-on-1, a quickly developing 3-on-1 for the Rangers, and Panarin tried to shoot and score. Schmid fought it off with his glove, didn't catch it clean, but, knocked it away with his glove. But Panarin had Tarasenko wide open on the other side of the net, might have been able to get the puck to him for what could have been, a tip-in goal there. So very ironic that the 1 shot on goal that Artemi Panarin actually mustered up in this game he probably should have passed it. And, that kind of just sums up the way it's gone for Panarin, and it sums up the way that it's gone for the Rangers in these last couple of games here. And as for Mika and Panarin, I know I kind of singled the two of them out here. They are not alone. Nearly every single player on this Ranger team needs to do better. The top six, it was another complete no-show from these guys. And, shots on goal, for a while it was kind of an overrated statistic, and I think people have kind of reeled it in with living and dying by shots on goal, but it is still a stat worth looking at. The Devils outshot the Rangers 43-23 in this game. Shots on goal does not always tell the complete story. In this game, oh yeah, that told the complete story. The Devils are absolutely buzzing in the Rangers zone. They could have won this game 7-0, 8-0, had it not been for excellent play from Igor Shesterkin. But we're just getting warmed up here. I got a whole lot else to talk about. We're going to talk about some brutal starts to pretty much all three periods that the Rangers had in this game. We're going to try to find anybody other than Igor Shesterkin that played well for the Rangers in this game, or at least played decently. We'll talk about some of the line changes that the Rangers made, and we're going to talk about why the Rangers now have an Akira Schmid problem. And we're going to get to all that stuff in just a second. But first, we do have to let everybody know that today's episode of Locked On New York Rangers is brought to you by eBay Motors. For a championship team, it's all about making sure every player is a perfect fit. It's the same when it comes to your vehicle. Every part needs to fit just right. So the next time you need parts and accessories, head to eBay Motors. With eBay Guaranteed Fit, you can be sure every part you need fits right the first time around. Just add your ride to My Garage and look for the green check to know the part will fit, or your money back. Because just like in sports, confidence is the name of the game when you shop on eBay Motors, and with over 122 million parts to choose from, you'll be back in the game in no time. After all, it's easy to bring home a win when the right parts are guaranteed. Get the right parts, the right fit, and the right prices on ebaymotors.com. Let's ride. eBay Guaranteed Fit, only available to U.S. customers. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. All right, let's keep everything rolling here. Like I said, I feel like I'm just getting warmed up, talking about everything that went wrong in this game, and essentially just a 30-minute call out of the New York Rangers, and trying to discuss, hey, how do you want this to be? Because the Rangers, it is going to be a long offseason and a tumultuous offseason at that, if they play the way they did in Game 6 and they go out with a whimper like they have in each of these last two games here. But as far as, kind of refocusing here and trying to figure out everything that went wrong in this game, and we probably need more than 30 minutes to do that. But bad starts to all three periods. The game begins, with the Devils scoring a goal 39 seconds into the game. You've lost the last two games at home. The Devils are feeling themselves. They have a lot of confidence. You've got Game 5 in New Jersey here. You had an extra day to get ready for this. You should be ready to go, not giving up a goal in the first minute of the game. You got to weather the storm, or, hey, maybe even bring the storm in the first couple of minutes, get things turned around, beat the Devils in a building where you beat them twice earlier in this series, but that was obviously not what happened here. And it begins with the Rangers. There's an offensive zone draw for the Devils, and Trocheck's out there to take the faceoff. He wins the faceoff clean, but he puts it right into the pad of Igor Shesterkin. Shesterkin, blocked it away, but the Devils get to the rebound. The shot then goes off the stick of Adam Fox. Palat took the shot. Fox got his stick on it. It kind of just fluttered into the air, went over Igor Shesterkin and into the net. So a little bit of a fluky goal there. You can't really go nuts about it, but again, you just got to be a little bit sharper than this, early in the game. You cannot be giving up an early goal like this, and if the Rangers played anything resembling a decent period, it was the first period. I thought they were better after this, and overall, the Devils had the better play in the first period, but I didn't think it was by a dramatic margin. Igor Shesterkin kept them in the game with some tough saves, but again, just a rough start there in the first period. Second period, how does the second period begin? As I already mentioned when I was talking about Mika, I thought the first shift of the second period was very good for the Rangers. I thought they were swarming in the offensive zone, being creative, a couple of good passes here and there. But obviously it didn't really lead to anything. What it led to was the Rangers, obviously taking a penalty. You've got Mika Zibanejad. No, this is the Patrick Kane penalty. Patrick Kane trips Jack Hughes in the neutral zone for pretty much no reason, and he heads to the penalty box, and the Devils are on the power play, and the Devils scored on that power play. I think that on the broadcast, it looked like there was 1 second left on the power play, and then Sam and Joe were saying that the scorer said that it was not a power play goal, and now it is a power play. I don't know. So on NHL.com right now, it is still listed as a power play goal for Erik Haula. But bottom line, it's still, whether it was technically a power play goal or not, it pretty much was, because if the penalty just expired, then, Kane in the penalty box, he doesn't have time to get out of the box and jump back into the play or anything like that. So for all intents and purposes, whether it's the official scoring or not, this was a power play goal for the Devils, and it happened because Patrick Kane took an unnecessary, undisciplined penalty in the neutral zone. And on top of that, the Rangers did a great job on this PK. They were awesome for the first minute and 46 seconds of this penalty kill. And then offensive zone draw for the Devils, 14 seconds left in the power play. They win the faceoff. They end up scoring. So both of the Devils' first 2 goals come as the result of getting possession of the puck off of a faceoff in the Rangers zone. Trocheck technically won the faceoff on the first goal for the Devils, but obviously kind of put the Rangers in a bad spot there. So all of the first 2 goals coming because the Devils got control of the puck off of a faceoff. So 2-0 at that point. And then the third period. The third period was an abomination in general, only the 2 shots on goal. But it started terribly because, again, Rangers in the offensive zone, down 3-0 at this point, and Mika Zibanejad takes a penalty for goalie interference. And I know there were some people saying, oh, well, he was pushed into the goalie. You know what? It's still a bad start to the third period. It would have been nice to see them, have a good shift there. Maybe you make some noise. You find a way to rally. You at least get the puck past Schmid once or twice in the third period just to instill some confidence, get yourselves feeling good heading into Game 6. But obviously, Rangers were not able to do that. Just brutal starts to all 3 periods for the Rangers in this game. They got to be ready to go when the puck drops. The Devils certainly were. The Rangers were not. So did anybody on the Rangers actually play well in this game? Well, obviously, Igor Shesterkin, he stops 39 of 42 shots, and we'll get to Igor shortly in greater detail. Again, I thought he was very good in this game. I would say the fourth line played pretty well for the Rangers. I thought in the first period, they were producing as many scoring chances as anybody else. There was a situation early in this game. Mott stole the puck in the offensive zone, got a shot. It was fought off by Schmid. Then Mott, a little bit later, I think it was the next shift after this, beautiful backhand pass to lead Barclay Goodrow into the offensive zone on a rush. Didn't really lead to anything, but it was a nice-looking play there, and it looked like the fourth line was buzzing a little bit. A little bit later in the first period, you've got Jimmy Vesey with a drop pass for Tyler Mott. Mott puts the shot on net, but it deflects out of play. And then, of course, Barclay Goodrow fighting ball. Later in the game, in the second period, Rangers were down 2-0 at that time, trying to give them some life, trying to give them some spark. On that shift, Ball had already knocked Goodrow to the ice. He knocked Jimmy Vesey to the ice. And Goodrow, credit to him, trying to show some fire, trying to show some fight, which is more than I can say for most players on the Rangers in this game. But he, threw hands with Ball. There weren't really a lot of punches landed either way. It was kind of just a big tussling match, but at least he's trying. At least he's trying to go toe-to-toe with somebody who's bigger than him. That's kind of a scary situation there. But after it happened, Goodrow's yelling at his bench and trying to wake everybody up. Maybe he should have thrown his helmet the way that Trouba did earlier this season. But yeah, it didn't seem to work because the Rangers somehow got a power play out of all this. I want to say it was an instigating penalty on the Devils in addition to the 5 for fighting for both Ball and Goodrow. But Rangers are on the power play. Fox with a pass across the blue line to his left to Artemi Panarin. Puck definitely, took a couple of bad hops, but as I talked about earlier when I was discussing Panarin, you're the bread man. You got to be able to handle this. Instead, it basically bounces off of him. 2-on-1 for the Devils. You've got Hala passing across the ice to Mercer. Mercer hammers it home. 3-0 Devils. And, I'm always glass half full. I always think a team can come back. This is about as hopeless of a situation as there's been all season. I just did not think the Rangers had a rally in their bones in this one, just based on everything that I was seeing. I didn't think they were going to suddenly find some switch to flip and just go off and end up scoring 4 goals to win this game. Just did not feel like that was something that was very likely to happen. But yeah, overall, that's a long way of saying that I think the fourth line overall played pretty well. I wouldn't mind seeing them start Game 6. Try something different. The Mika line has been starting every game and every period for the Rangers. I mean, maybe there's been 1 or 2 periods where somebody else started it. I think the kid line early in this series might have started one of the periods. But you know what? You got to try something different here. And the fourth line has been bringing it. And put them out there. Maybe they give you a spark. They'll at least give you some physicality. They'll at least go out there and fight a little bit. Set a tone right from the offensive, or right from the opening face-off for the Rangers in this next game. Go ahead and put the fourth line out there. What else did we want to get to here? Oh, so a couple other players that played well. Trouba, I thought Trouba was out there mixing it up a little bit. He ends up with 6 hits in this game, as did Braden Schneider to lead the Rangers in that department. He was getting in somebody's face at the end of the first period. Again, I think just trying to breathe some life into his team, get some fire instilled into his team. I don't think it really worked that well, but at least the effort was there from Trouba. I thought he defended well in this game as well. Capo Caco, I thought he was, out there battling in this game. He was working really hard to maintain possession of the puck in a couple different instances. He didn't do anything otherworldly, but, compared to the rest of his Ranger teammates, I mean, this is like prime Wayne Gretzky here, what Capo Caco did. He at least was out there battling. And I don't think it was a coincidence that when the Rangers changed their lines later in the game, the line combinations, that Caco was the one who got the biggest promotion. He moves from the third line up to the top line with Mika and Kreider. And again, it didn't really do a whole lot as far as changing the lines around here. But hey, at least they tried something, and at least Caco, again, I thought he was out there at least battling and giving an honest effort. Other than that, I mean, am I missing anybody? Did anybody else play strong hockey for the Rangers? Adam Fox is a -3. He's completely disappeared in this series. Ryan Lindgren, I mean, he's just kind of there. I don't think he's done anything wrong, but the heart and soul of the Rangers, you just expect him to stand out a little bit more. And granted, he was mixing it up. There was a scramble late in this game where the Rangers were trying to get a puck past Schmid, and he was getting punched in the back of the head 3 times. He at least got in, his opponent's face there. But yeah, I mean, there's just not much going on. Tarasenko, if you can go through the whole top 6, Tarasenko was a ghost in this game. I didn't think he brought anything to the table. The kid line didn't really do a whole lot either. So yeah, I think we've covered everybody. It's basically the 4th line, obviously Igor, I'll say Trouba, and I'll say Caco, who stood out in a positive way for the Rangers in this game. As far as the line changes that the Rangers made, we will get to those in just a second. We're also going to talk about why the Rangers now seem to have an Akira Schmid problem, and we're going to do all that stuff in just a second. All right, so line changes. They had to try something. We're at a spot now where in the last 3 games combined, this team has scored a grand total of 2 goals, and that's not going to get it done. But the Rangers, obviously, they had to shuffle the deck. This kind of felt like change for the sake of change with these line combinations, which I'm not usually a big proponent of. I don't like when they just randomly change lines for seemingly no reason, but the way these games have gone, you had to try something at least a little bit different as far as the line combinations are concerned. So you got Caco moving up to the top line with Kreider and Mika, I think well-deserved. The second line, or what I assume is the second line, Panarin, Trocheck, and Tarasenko. Earlier, down the stretch this season, we had a situation where we had Panarin, Mika, and Tarasenko, and I thought that line combination looked really good together. I don't know if that's something they might try going into the next game. I get the feeling we're probably going to see the same line combinations at the start of Game 6 that we saw at the end of Game 5 here. We'll see how it shakes out, but you can't go with the same line combinations that you've used to start all of these last 3 games. You just cannot do that. You have to try something at least a little bit different. And of course, that meant that the third line was Lafreniere, Hedl, and Kane. So Kane drops out of the top 6, and I would say deservedly so at this point. So really, I guess the only real change is that Caco and Kane were flip-flopped. There wasn't really any other change other than that. But again, you have to try something, and I guess that was the move that they went with, and we'll see how it shakes out, or if that's how they line up in the next game as well. I want to keep everything rolling here. Talk about a little bit about Akira Schmid and the Rangers. As I said a second ago, they now have what I'm calling an Akira Schmid problem. And the part of the reason why you have this, first of all, let's give credit to Schmid. He's played very, very well. He had stopped 49 of 51 shots coming into this game, and so doing some quick math here, which is always a little bit of a risky proposition on this show. I believe he's now stopped, 74 out of 76 shots, something along those lines. He stopped all 23 shots that he faced in this game last night. Bottom line, he's been awesome for the Devils. He's really stepped into a difficult situation, and has obviously handled it very, very well. But the Rangers bear some responsibility here, because this was Akira Schmid's best game, and it's not just because he got the shutout. It's because he made a lot of really nice saves, really difficult saves throughout this game, certainly early in this game, and just didn't allow the Rangers to get a puck by him. But part of this problem is that the Rangers allowed a 22-year-old goalie, somebody with limited NHL experience, somebody who had never even seen action in a Stanley Cup playoff game, they allowed him to settle in and get comfortable in games 3 and 4. The Rangers did not do enough to put traffic in front of him. They didn't do enough to screen him. They didn't do enough to get some second chance opportunities, whether that's cleaning up a puck in the crease, whether that's actually getting to a rebound and putting another shot in the net. The Rangers don't get any second chance opportunities, and that's on them. Schmid, again, he's been very, very good, take nothing away, but in games 3 and 4, I don't think that he had these otherworldly performances the way that certain people were making them out to be. He was very good. I didn't think he made a lot of those wow saves in games 3 and 4. He had some wow saves in game 5 right now, but that's just it. You kind of see the progression here. Schmid comes into games 3 and 4, difficult situation. His team down 2-0, plays very, very well, gets them back into the series. He has gone now from not just being the goalie that's giving the Devils a chance, as he was in games 3 and 4. He's now one of the main reasons why the Devils have turned this series around and why they're now up 3-2. And you got to believe he looked confident when he came into game 3. His confidence has to be through the roof right now. And again, part of the problem here, part of the blame here goes to the Rangers for, again, allowing him to get way too comfortable in games 3 and 4. And now he's feeling it. The Devils are feeling it. And he's going to be a tough goalie to beat going forward. I think that's pretty obvious. And just did not do enough to get him off his game, to make him uncomfortable, to make life difficult on him. So, yes, the Rangers absolutely have an Akira Schmid problem at this point. And Igor was great in this game. Igor Shesterkin, I've been talking about him kind of on and off throughout the entire episode. He ends up stopping 39 of 42 shots. And the goals he gave up, he had that fluky goal after Trocheck won the faceoff right into his pads. The shot from Palat deflects off of Adam Fox's stick, goes into the air, goes into the net. Strange goal there. The next goal that he gave up was a Haula power play goal in which the Rangers left Haula all by himself in front of the Ranger net. He had a shot that was put on net. Haula deflected it, got through Igor, just barely trickled across the line there. Igor couldn't quite get his glove onto it. Yeah, that was going to be a difficult save. It was a deflection, and it was a result of the Rangers leaving the front of their net wide open. And then, of course, you've got that shorthanded goal on a 2-on-1 rush. The Devils executed that 2-on-1 rush to perfection. You can't really do it any better than that. And it happened as the result of a bad turnover by Artemi Panarin. And, maybe Fox bears some responsibility there, too, because as I mentioned, the puck was bouncing kind of crazy as it was approaching Panarin. So I don't know if Fox maybe, shanked his pass a little bit and didn't make the kind of smooth, crisp pass that we're seeing Adam Fox make. So put that one on Fox and Panarin while we're talking about that. But yeah, I would not put any of the 3 goals on Igor Shesterkin. Could he have possibly come up with 1 or 2 of them? Maybe. But Igor Shesterkin has played great in this series. And if you think Igor is the problem, which I don't think many Ranger fans do, but if you think he's the problem, you've not paid very close attention to this series. Igor was part of the problem last year when the Rangers fell down 3-1 to the Penguins. But this year, he's played great hockey and has gotten absolutely zero help from his supposed superstar teammates that have mostly been complete no-shows for the majority of this series. And Igor, after one of his better saves, he made a ridiculous glove save on Timo Meier when the Rangers were down 3-0. Great save there. He went over to the bench and was kind of yelling at them a little bit. There was a TV timeout forthcoming, so he took that opportunity to go over there and say something to the bench. He wasn't really yelling, but it was kind of like, yo, let's pick it up, and the Rangers never did, unfortunately. The only other thing I want to talk about here before we call it a day, we are now, as Ranger fans and, the entire Ranger organization, we are 1 loss away from quite a few bad things happening. And, I'll kind of just run through them really quick here. We are 1 loss away from the Patrick Kane experiment being a complete and utter failure, which is what it will be if the Rangers lose Game 6, if the Rangers play the way they did in Game 6, the way that they have in each of these last 2 games. I still think it was worth the gamble. You're going into the Stanley Cup playoffs. It's a tournament with 16 teams. I think it's the most difficult tournament to win in all of professional sports on this planet. So I think, in some ways, fortune favors the bold, and I understand the Rangers wanted to go all in here, and I still understand why they did what they did, bring in Patrick Kane, but you know what? He didn't really cut it for this team down the stretch in the regular season. There were people suggesting that he was saving his energy for the playoffs. I tried to buy into that a little bit. At times, maybe I did buy into that a little bit. And we saw Showtime Patrick Kane in Game 2. He was phenomenal in that game, but that's it. I mean, he hasn't done anything in these other games. And I know a lot of people are going to hide behind the fact that he has, 6 or 7 points, whatever it is here. I think it's 6 points. But it's kind of empty calories. There's too many games, there's too many shifts where he's just a complete ghost out there. I would say Kane has probably played better than most of the Ranger forwards in the top 6, but that's not really saying a whole lot. We have not gotten a whole lot of Showtime Patrick Kane here. And if the Rangers lose this series and he moves on in free agency, then Patrick Kane on the Rangers, that just becomes a footnote in hockey history. And it's not going to really be remembered very fondly by Ranger fans. Another thing, as far as other bad things that are going to happen, what we're 1 loss away from here, if the Rangers lose Game 6 and it goes the way that these last 2 games have gone, Panarin is going to be labeled as somebody who cannot get it done in the playoffs and somebody who's not worth his $11.6 million cap hit. And that might sound harsh, but that's the reality of the situation right now. Again, if you're a Ranger fan and you're mad and upset and that there's certain players that are driving you crazy right now and you're upset with guys like Mika and Panarin, I totally get it, because if the Rangers lose this series in 6 games, this performance is going to stick to a lot of players on this team. It's going to stick to the coaching staff, and it's going to stick to guys like Mika Zibanejad and Chris Kreider. I know Kreider was lighting it up the first couple of games, but he's done very little recently, and it's certainly going to stick to Artemi Panarin, who, again, has not had a point since the first period of Game 1, and just looks completely lost out there. So he will be labeled as somebody who's not going to get it done when the lights are at their brightest. And that's just the reality of the situation. I think also Gerard Gallant's job is going to be in jeopardy if the Rangers lose Game 6, and I can't argue with it based on what we've seen here, because if you go up 2-0 and you're in complete control of the series and you just have a complete meltdown and lose 4 straight games, I mean, yeah, that some questions are going to arise as it pertains to the job security of the head coach. Another bad thing that would happen here, this would be the second straight playoff series that the Rangers have lost after getting up 2-0. Try to figure this out. The Rangers fall down 3-1 to the Penguins, they come back and win that series. They fall behind 2-0 to the Canes, they come back and win that series. They go up 2-0 on the Lightning, they lose that series. They go up 2-0 on the Devils, and they might lose this series. And it's not written yet. The story has not been completed yet. I'm not going to give up yet. I mean, the Rangers, they've been at their best at times when, their backs are against the wall. But be that as it may, they're in jeopardy of potentially losing another series in which they led 2-0. And also another thing, as far as bad things are going to happen, it's going to be, in both a literal and figurative sense, a much longer offseason than we planned for. Obviously, the Rangers, if they lose another game here, they'll be going out in the first round instead of the third round, so it's a literal longer offseason. But figuratively, yeah, I think heads are going to roll and some changes are going to be made if the Rangers go out the way that, they've been looking like they're going to go out here these last couple of games. Again, I'm not throwing in the towel yet. The good news is that the Rangers last season in the playoffs, they were at their absolute best when they had their backs against the wall. They were 5-0 when facing elimination in the first 2 rounds combined. Can they pull another rabbit out of the hat here? It's possible. They got to win Game 6 first, and that's the bottom line. They're at home in Madison Square Garden. That's another thing, too. Like, if they lose Game 6, they not only would have lost 4 straight games, 3 of those games are at home. And we could debate how big or how small home ice advantage is in the playoffs. It doesn't seem to be playing that big of a role in this series. The home team's only won 1 game. But that's going to be ugly too, going 0-3 in Madison Square Garden. And the Rangers have to start fast in this next game. If they get off to a rough start in Game 6, they're going to be hearing it from the crowd, because this is going to be a restless crowd. They need something to feel good about, the fans, that is. They need something to get themselves into the game, to bring the energy, bring the noise. If the Rangers give up a goal, in the first couple of minutes of that game, if they fall behind early, if they're down by multiple goals, the air is going to go right out of that building. That is for sure. But yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it for today. What else can I say, man? It was another just abysmal performance by the Rangers, and they have to do a lot of things better. Pretty much everything we just mentioned here. They have to have a lot of players individually play a heck of a lot better, and need to stop playing such disjointed hockey. I mean, just step it up a little bit here, get in somebody's face, bring some fire, bring some freaking energy to the rink for Game 6. But that will do it for today, guys. Once again, if you'd like to get in touch with this podcast, please send an email to lockedonnyrangers@gmail.com. Once again, that is lockedonnyrangers@gmail.com. Definitely give us a follow on Twitter as well, @LO_NY_Rangers. Once again, that's @LO_NY_Rangers. And definitely subscribe to the Locked On New York Rangers YouTube channel. Locked On New York Rangers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks again, guys. I will see you next time.